Psychology suggests that the absence of fries is rarely a matter of chance or bad luck. It's often the quiet, consistent outcome of deeply ingrained patterns of thought and behavior that we ourselves are the last to recognize. These aren't character flaws or signs of being a bad person. They are, more often than not, sophisticated defense mechanisms forged in the past to protect us from harm, but which now, in the present, unintentionally push away the very connection we crave. To understand these traits is not to judge, but to illuminate the hidden architecture of our own loneliness. It's the first, most crucial step toward dismantling the walls we didn't even know we built. So, what are these patterns? Let's explore the first one, a trait that acts as the very foundation for a life of solitude. The first trait is a rigid and inflexible mindset. Imagine a person who has constructed their entire worldview like a house of cards where every belief, every opinion, and every expectation must remain perfectly in place. If one card is moved, the entire structure threatens to collapse. This is the inner world of the rigidly minded individual. They don't see their beliefs as perspectives, they see them as facts. They don't see their routines as preferences, they see them as the only correct way to do things. To the outside world, this can look like stubbornness, arrogance, or being overly controlling. But if we look deeper beneath the surface of this unyielding exterior, we find something far more vulnerable, a profound and paralyzing fear of the unknown. Fryship, by its very nature, is a journey into the unpredictable. It requires you to listen to ideas that challenge your own, to adapt to another person's needs and moods, to compromise on plans, and sometimes to admit that you are wrong. For a person whose sense of safety is tethered to control and predictability, this is terrifying. A Fry's different political view isn't just a disagreement, it feels like a fundamental threat to their world order. A last-minute change of plans isn't a minor inconvenience, it feels like a personal betrayal of an unspoken contract. To engage with another person on authentic terms means surrendering a degree of control, and for the rigid mind, surrendering control feels like surrendering the self. So you might ask yourself, have you ever been in a conversation where you felt a rising panic or anger simply because someone disagreed with you? Not because they were unkind, but just because their reality didn't match yours. Have you ever insisted on a plan, a restaurant, or a topic of conversation, not because it was truly important, but because the thought of deviating from it filled you with an unexplainable anxiety? This is the signature of a rigid mindset. You may think you are deefing a principle, but what you are often deefing is a fragile inner structure. The tragic irony is that in the relentless effort to maintain control and feel safe, you create a sterile, predictable world devoid of the one thing that offers true security: genuine human connection. The psychological work here is not to abandon your principles, but to recognize the difference between a core value and a rigid preference. It's to slowly, consciously allow for a little bit of chaos to see that a different opinion won't shatter your world, and to learn that the most stable structures are not the most rigid, but the most flexible. This leads us directly to the second trait, which is often found hiding just beneath the first, a pervasive and exhausting habit of taking everything personally. If the rigid mindset is the fortress wall, this emotional sensitivity is the overly sensitive alarm system, triggered by the slightest tremor. For a person with this trait, the world is not a neutral stage of events. It is a constant referendum on their personal worth. Every interaction, every comment, every glance is filtered through the question, what does this say about me? A fry who is quiet and distracted during a conversation isn't just having a bad day. They are secretly bored or angry with you. A group of colleagues laughing in the corner aren't sharing an inside joke. They are laughing at you. A casual suggestion to try a different approach on a project isn't helpful feedback. It's a devastating critique of your intelligence. This isn't narcissism or self-obsession in the way we typically think of it. In fact, it's often the opposite. This pattern is born from a deep, often unconscious well of insecurity. It's a reflection of a core belief that you are, in some fundamental way, not good enough. Because this belief is always humming in the background, you are constantly scanning your environment for evidence to confirm it. This is a classic example of a cognitive bias known as confirmation bias, but applied to your own self-worth. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are, or more accurately, as you fear you are. The tragedy is that this constant vigilance for rejection becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about it from the other side. How does it feel to be fries with someone whose feelings are so easily hurt? It's like walking through a minefield. You become hesitant to offer honest opinions. You avoid lighthearted teasing, which is a common form of social bonding, for fear it will be misinterpreted as a cruel jab. You find yourself carefully curating your words, your facial expressions, your very energy, to avoid accidentally setting off their internal alarm. Over time, this becomes emotionally draining. The fry ship starts to feel like a performance, a duty of careful management rather than a relaxed, authentic connection. Eventually, people will quietly and gently drift away, not out of malice, but out of sheer exhaustion. They are not rejecting you. They are retreating from the impossible task of managing your emotional responses for you. So, reflect for a moment. Do you find yourself replaying conversations in your head, lessly dissecting them for hidden meanings or subtle signs of disapproval? Does a small, ambiguous text message have the power to ruin your entire day? When someone offers you feedback, is your first instinct to feel shame and defensiveness rather than curiosity? If so, you may be caught in this painful cycle. The way out is not to become cold or unfeeling, but to learn to insert a crucial pause between an event and your interpretation of it. It's to practice asking a different question. Instead of, "What does this say about me?" you can begin to ask, "What else could this possibly mean?" This simple shift in perspective is the beginning of reclaiming your emotional autonomy and realizing that most of what other people do has very little to do with you at all. This internal focus, this constant calculation of personal meaning, gives rise to the third trait, one that poisons the well of connection before it can even be drunk from: a transactional approach to relationships. The person who embodies this trait moves through the social world not as a participant in a community, but as a merchant in a marketplace. They carry an invisible ledger in their mind, meticulously tracking every debit and credit of social exchange. If they listen to your problems for an hour, they expect exactly 60 minutes of your undivided attention in return. If they buy you a coffee, they will remember it, and a subtle tension will hang in the air until you have reciprocated the favor. Every act of kindness is not a gift, but a loan, and they are a vigilant debt collector. On the surface, this might look like a desire for fairness. "I just want things to be equal," they might say. But if you look beneath this claim, you find the same engine of fear that powers the other traits. For this person, relationships are not built on trust and mutual care. They are built on a fragile, precarious balance of power. To receive something without immediately giving something of equal or greater value back is to be in debt. And to be in debt is to be vulnerable, to be in a position where someone else has leverage over you. This is an intolerable state for someone who, deep down, feels unsafe in the world. They will either reject help and kindness outright, "No, I'm fine, I can manage," to avoid the discomfort of obligation, or they will rush to repay it so quickly that the warmth of the original gesture is extinguished. Now, turn this lens inward. Have you ever kept a quiet tally of who initiated the last 3 text conversations? Do you feel a prickle of resentment when you believe you are giving more to a fry ship than you are getting back? When someone does something unexpectedly kind for you, is your first feeling a sense of gratitude or a slight panic about how you will make it up to them? This is the transactional mindset at work. It prevents you from ever truly relaxing into a connection. You are always calculating, always measuring, always ensuring you don't fall behind. The tragic outcome is that you completely miss the point of fryship. Fryship thrives in the imbalance. It lives in the moments where one person carries the other, trusting that there will come a time when the roles are reversed. It is the fry who sits with you in silence when you are grieving, asking for nothing in return. It is you driving across town at midnight to help a fry with a flat tire, not because you expect them to do the same, but simply because they need you. This constant scorekeeping is a powerful, albeit unspoken, message to the other person. "I do not trust you." It says, "I don't believe that you would care for me out of genuine affection, so I must secure our relationship through a system of contractual obligations." People feel this. They feel the weight of your expectations. They sense that your generosity comes with invisible strings attached. And so they either start playing the game with you, creating a sterile and hollow fryship based on reciprocity, or they slowly withdraw from the pressure of your silent accounting. The path to freedom from this pattern is to cultivate a sense of inner abundance. It's to realize that your worth is not determined by what you give or receive, and that kindness is not a finite resource to be hoarded. It is about learning to give for the simple joy of giving, and to receive with the simple grace of gratitude, finally putting down the heavy ledger and joining the dance of human connection. The need to maintain such a tight transactional grip on relationships is often a symptom of something even deeper, which brings us to the fourth trait, a profound and consistent avoidance of genuine vulnerability. This is the person who has perfected the art of appearing invulnerable. They are the strong fry, the reliable one, the person who always has their life in order. They offer advice, they solve problems, they listen intently to the struggles of others, but they never ever reveal their own. Their inner world is a locked room, and they stand guard at the door, deflecting any attempt at entry with a joke, a change of subject, or a reassuring, "I'm fine, really." This isn't a display of arrogance or a lack of emotion. Quite the opposite. This impenetrable exterior is a shield forged to protect an exquisitely sensitive core. Deep down, this person harbors a core belief that their true self, the self that is uncertain, afraid, messy, and in need, is fundamentally unacceptable. This belief didn't come from nowhere. It was likely learned in a past environment where showing weakness was met with punishment, ridicule, or neglect. They learned a powerful unconscious lesson. To be safe, you must be strong. To be loved, you must be useful. To survive, you must hide your needs. And so they tucked away all the parts of themselves they deemed unlovable into the shadows of their personality and built a capable, competent persona to face the world. The tragic irony is that this very shield, designed to protect them from rejection, is what guarantees their isolation. Fryship is not built on a foundation of perfection. It is built on the shared ground of our mutual imperfection. True intimacy happens in the moments when the masks come off. It's in the confession, "I'm scared I'm going to fail." It's in the quiet admission, "I feel so lost right now." It's in the simple, powerful request, "Can you just sit with me? I don't want to be alone." When you consistently refuse to show your own cracks, you don't give anyone a place to connect with you. You become a polished surface that people can admire but never truly hold. Furthermore, it creates a subtle but powerful imbalance. If a fry opens up to you, sharing their deepest fears, and you respond only with stoic advice and reveal nothing of yourself, they will eventually stop trying. They feel exposed and alone in their vulnerability. They will conclude not that you are strong, but that you do not trust them enough to be real. So let me ask you, are you the designated rock in your social circle? Do you pride yourself on never needing help from anyone? When someone asks how you are, do you have a default, pleasant answer that reveals nothing of substance? Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed, sad, or afraid. Who did you tell? If the answer is no one, it's worth exploring why. The journey here is not about becoming a person who crumbles at the slightest pressure. It's about understanding that your struggles do not diminish your worth. They affirm your humanity. True strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the courage to be seen in it. By selectively and safely letting someone see behind your curtain of competence, you are not burdening them. You are giving them a gift, the gift of your trust. You are finally extending an invitation for them to know the real you, and in doing so, creating the possibility of a bond that is actually strong enough to hold you. This fear of revealing one's true self, of showing the cracks in the armor, culminates in the fifth and perhaps most insidious trait, a passive and deeply pessimistic outlook on social connection itself. This isn't an active aggression that pushes people away, but a quiet, deflating energy that smothers potential fryships before they can even draw breath. The individual with this trait has, often unconsciously, accepted a narrative of defeat. They believe on a fundamental level that fryship is not really possible for them. This belief system is buttressed by a catalog of past hurts, rejections, and disappointments, which they revisit as evidence that their loneliness is a permanent, unchangeable fact. This pessimism manifests in 1,000 small, almost invisible behaviors. It's the person at a party who stands against the wall, not because they are shy, but because they have already concluded that no one will be interested in talking to them. It's the person who receives an invitation but immediately thinks of all the reasons it will be awkward or go wrong, and so declines. They don't make the first move not out of pride, but out of a deep-seated belief that it will be futile. Their mantra is, "Why bother?" They may say they want phrase, and they may even genuinely feel that desire, but their actions are perfectly aligned with their core belief that connection is doomed to fail. This is the ultimate expression of a learned helplessness applied to their social lives. From an external perspective, this passivity is often misinterpreted. It can look like disinterest, aloofness, or even snobbery. A potential new fry might make an overture, a frilly comment, or a question, only to be met with a short, closed-off response. The pessimistic person isn't trying to be rude. They are trying to protect themselves from the anticipated pain of yet another failed connection. By giving a minimal response, they short-circuit the entire process. If I don't let it start, the unconscious logic goes, it can't in rejection. They are preemptively ing the relationship to avoid having it ed on them later. This creates a powerful, isolating feedback loop. Their passivity ensures no new connections are formed, which they then interpret as further proof that no one is interested in them, which in turn reinforces their pessimism and deepens their passivity. So it's time for another moment of honest self-reflection. Do you find yourself assuming the worst about social situations before they even happen? Do you have a list of reasons why making new fries is harder for you than it is for other people? Do you tell yourself a story that you are just an introvert or not a people person as a way to rationalize a lack of effort? It's crucial to distinguish between genuine preference for solitude and a fear-based resignation to it. The path forward begins with challenging the narrative itself. It involves recognizing that your past experiences are data, not destiny. It's about cultivating a mindset of gentle, curious experimentation. What if you went to that event with the simple goal of asking one person a question, with no expectation of what comes next? What if you initiated one text message, releasing all attachment to the outcome? The work is not to suddenly become a social butterfly, but to interrupt the cycle of pessimistic prediction and passive inaction. It's about taking one small, courageous step into the possibility that your story of loneliness is not the only story you are capable of living. By doing so, you begin to rewrite the ing, not by changing the world, but by changing your place within it. Now that we have illuminated these 5 traits, the rigid mindset, the habit of taking things personally, the transactional approach, the avoidance of vulnerability, and the pessimistic passivity, it becomes clear that they are not 5 separate issues, but 5 faces of the same underlying entity. They are all expressions of a single powerful force: fear. It is the fear of being seen and rejected, the fear of losing control, the fear of being indebted, the fear of being inadequate. This fear is a ghost from the past, an emotional echo of old wounds that's to dictate your present behavior. The lonely individual is not someone who is unlovable. They are someone who is living in a prison whose walls are built of their own defenses. Recognizing these patterns in yourself is not a cause for shame. It is a moment of profound opportunity. It is the moment you realize you are not a passive victim of your loneliness, but an active, if unconscious, participant in its creation. This is the most empowering realization you can have, because if you have a hand in creating it, you also have the power to uncreate it. This is where the real work begins, moving beyond simple identification of the traits and into the deeper work of understanding their origins and dismantling their power. This journey is not about trying to become a different person. It's about removing the layers of fear-based conditioning so that the person you already are can finally emerge and connect. The process starts with radical self-compassion. You must look at these traits not as flaws to be eradicated, but as misguided attempts by a younger part of you to keep you safe. That rigid mindset? It was likely developed by a part of you that grew up in chaos and craved stability. Your tendency to take everything personally? It probably belongs to a version of you that was starved for validation and learned to see every interaction as a test of its worth. The transactional accounting, the invulnerable shield, the pessimistic resignation. These are all strategies of a survivor. Before you can change them, you must honor them. You must thank that part of you for its service, for getting you through whatever it was you had to get through. You can say to yourself, I understand why you built this wall. It kept me safe then. But I am safe now and this wall is no longer serving me. This act of internal dialogue is not just a comforting exercise. It is a fundamental psychological shift. It separates your conscious adult self from these outdated automatic patterns. It allows you to observe them with a sense of gentle detachment instead of being helplessly fused with them. When you feel the familiar urge to correct someone's opinion, you can now pause and recognize, there is the fear of losing control. When you feel the sting of a casual comment, you can observe, there is the old story that I am not good enough. You stop being the pattern and become the witness to the pattern. This space, this moment of mindful awareness you create between a trigger and your reaction, is where your freedom lies. It is in this space that you can make a new choice. You are no longer on autopilot, driven by the ghosts of the past. You are in the driver's seat, conscious, aware, and capable of choosing a different path, one small, intentional step at a time. This is the beginning of true self-mastery, not through force but through awareness.